Hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I figured I would do a kind of reaction video. Some people were asking me to do one. Xbox Nation is still on for tonight, where we'll have, I guess, everybody's kind of a take and opinions on this stuff. I'm the only one in here right now, so I'm not sure what everybody else is doing, but I take it most of you watched the Sony press conference just like I did. And, it's interesting to kind of take it all in. I was expecting much, much more. I was expecting them to go all in about everything, the kind of like the PC stuff like that. You know what I mean? Here's the things, right? In case you guys didn't know, they announced the PS4 Slim, right? Now the PS4 Slim is going to be $299, and I said that they would say $299 because they're cocky. And this Slim is the same price as the Xbox One S, but it has no 4K Blu-ray player and no 4K streaming ability. Now, the thing that Sony and the Sony fanboys will want to spin around is the fact that they're going to get HDR updated through a firmware update on all the consoles, so even the base model is going to have that. The problem with that is no games support HDR right now. So, and any games that do support HDR that aren't exclusive to PlayStation will also be supported as far as HDR is concerned on the Xbox One S. So like Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, that's going to be HDR. Mass Effect Andromeda, that's going to be HDR on the Xbox One as well. So just so you guys know, or whatever, so yeah, that's very interesting. So Sony basically come out and said, our Slim is as much as the Xbox One S, but doesn't do half of what that thing does, So yeah, that was an interesting takeaway. Now, as far as what Sony is doing with the PS4 Pro, that was probably one of the worst conferences I've ever seen in my life, ever seen. It was terrible. It was totally boring. Sony, it looks like they're completely off their rocker. They are lacking confidence right now. Anybody can see it. Look, you guys in the chat right now. I'm watching you in the chat. Does anybody in here think that that's the confident Sony that we saw from 2013? Does anybody? Raise your hand. Type 1 in the chat box if you think Sony is confident. Type 2 if you think that they're scared and reeling right now. I'm waiting. I'll wait. Exactly. That is not a confident Sony. That is not a confident PlayStation brand right now. Here's the thing. Do you guys remember back when the Xbox One was announced, right? It was announced after the PS4. PS4 had it beat in spec, right? So Microsoft knew they had it beat in spec. So what do, right? They go, well, we've got all these transistors, right? You guys remember that, the transistors talk, right? Hey, transistors, right? We've got billions of transistors. Transistors everywhere. Transistors for all. So what did Sony do this time around, right? Sony didn't preach power. They said, real quickly, double the GPU, right? Double the GPU. That's it. And they overclocked the CPU. So, honestly, that is very telling in and of itself. Okay, because that shows you that they didn't do anything to the spec. They didn't do anything. It's the same thing. It's not going to be on Scorpio's level. The 4.14 teraflops, the 8 gigs of GDDR5. There's not going to be an upgradable GPU. There's not going to be any of that stuff. Not only that, but guys, if that's not bad enough, right? Guess what? This PS4 Pro, as it's called, it's not very pro because it doesn't support 4K Blu-ray player. How can they have this thing? Sony is one of the chair members of the Blu-ray board, and they have no 4K Blu-ray. Confirmed 4.14 teraflops or whatever it is. Yes. And it's the same Jaguar CPU. 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, same as what's in the base PS4. I think 4K Blu-ray is needed because look, Proto, this is exactly what it would be needed for me. Like my internet isn't good enough to support streaming of 4K content right now, but I can watch. No, I said the CPU is the same, bro. CPU is the same Jaguar, overclocked. It's a GPU that's increased. That's basically it. That's basically it. They basically confirmed that this thing is intended for PlayStation VR. So yeah, I definitely think that that's kind of an interesting. No 4K Blu-ray player. I mean, how is that pro? How is that pro? Ask yourself that. How is that pro? Right? And now ask yourself this. I don't know how many of you guys have the ability to actually see, like, I have a pretty good monitor and stuff, so I was watching it on my monitor. But I just want to say, as far as what they were talking about, the games don't even look fantastic. They're not here. I'm going to throw out some buzzwords that Sony was using, because they were doing everything they could to confuse people into believing that the PS4 Pro can do 4K native, right? This is what you heard: temporal resolution, right? Which is basically a checkerboard option that you use with the buffer. So basically you can upscale to 4K. So the PS4 Pro is basically their Xbox One S, right? It's going to upscale to 4K. It's going to have HDR, but it doesn't have a 4K Blu-ray player. Okay. And the other thing is this: everybody was talking about visual fidelity and things like that. These are the exact same games. So one disc, and there's not two different versions. It's just going to detect if you have like a 4K TV and upscale it and do it's the exact same textures. You heard Mark Cerny and them talk about it. Same textures, only upscale. So basically the only difference you're going to get is upscale textures, and they kind of just glossed over the whole aspect of what this thing offers. It was literally one of the worst conferences I've ever heard in my life. I can't get over how bad it was. It was just incredibly bad. And I actually feel bad. Well, I don't know if I feel bad for Sony fanboys, because they talked up all this stuff. They're incredibly quiet right now, but hey, Sony fanboys, let me say something real quick. How does it feel? How does it feel? Because you guys talked all that smack. You were swearing up and down that they would go back and respec the PlayStation 4 Neo, as it was called at the time. Now it's the PS4 Pro, although no 4K Blu-ray. I don't see how pro that could be. But hey, you're welcome to use Sony's own multimedia service to stream all the 4K content you want at a price, right? So you have that. So basically, who in their right mind would buy the PS4 Slim at $299 when you get the other one for $399? But again, why would you buy any of this stuff? Because it doesn't seem that pro to me. It doesn't seem like the PS4 Pro is that big of a leap from the Xbox One S, just in my opinion. I think that it's absolutely hilarious that we're seeing any kind of it's very funny to me. And I will say that I was excited to see the Mass Effect Andromeda footage. And the whole time I'm thinking, damn, that's going to look good on the Xbox One S in HDR, right? So why? It is a little bit been a while since I've done one of these things by myself. But again, if you're an Xbox dude, pat yourself on the back, man. You survived. You survived the dark times. We're stepping out of the dark times into the light times, where Xbox is once again the best box. It's the best value still. You know what I mean? It's like right now you'll be able to go into a store and see an Xbox One S for $299 with 4K Blu-ray, 4K streaming, HDR, all that stuff. Bluetooth controller for $299, or you can see a PS4 Slim that has none of that, but I guess we'll have HDR, but no 4K. So I'm not really sure exactly what they would do. Who do I got in here? Holy crap!
What's up, Crappy?
I got Rand. You were like, "Oh, I'm good." So, but you jumped in.
I got a few minutes to spare. So I figured I saw you by yourself, so I figured I'd give you some company.
Yeah, well, I was asking. I sent it out some. I don't want to do too long on one, but I was like, you know what? Everybody that just watched that, and I'm chomping at the bit because I mean, you guys saw it, right? And what did you take away? What did you take away from it right away? Because like myself, I'm thinking they're dancing around the power. This thing doesn't. They didn't even mention 4K Blu-ray player. Now we know it doesn't have one.
It was a really weird conference. Like, it went like how I thought it would be. Like, you need to sell the PS Pro. You need to sell its features. So, of course, here's some games, how it looks. But you knew immediately when it was like double the teraflops and the overclocked GPU or the CPU, you knew the original rumor was right because they didn't want to touch the specs. What I find weird about the whole thing, right, was they made this big deal about 4K and HDR and all this stuff, like how it's 4K changes the game and stuff. And then it comes to find out that it doesn't even ship with an Ultra 4K Blu-ray player. And I see people, people DM me, people send me tweets. It's like, well, I don't think really people give a shit about movies anymore in 4K. And fair enough, I don't really think that's big of a deal. But the problem is, I'm not sure, because they're not including a 4K Blu-ray player, like an Ultra HD one, I don't think the system can do native 4K. I think it only can do native 4K through streaming and apps. Like, I don't think you'll be able to play Days Gone, for example, a game that they showed, and have that natively run at 4K. I think they missed the boat on that. I could be completely wrong. I mean, I'm not that much of a tech guy.
No, well, if you listen to what they said, right, and I wrote it down while I was listening to it, they talked about temporal resolution, right, which is that same stuff that they used for Killzone Shadowfall when they were trying to pass that off as 1080p, and then when you actually break it down, it was like 720p, but the way they do it with temporal resolution or whatever, they're able to get away with it. Same way that Quantum Break was technically 1080p, right, but it's not really, That's what they're going to be doing. They're not doing native 4K gaming. Like this thing, the PS4 Pro can't do native 4K gaming, right? And again, I already talked about this a minute ago, which was maybe you'll have something on this too, Ran. Like they talked up HDR, like us Xbox fans haven't been excited about this since
right.
E3.
And the thing with that is like I don't even think most. Like HDR is a new thing in TVs, and it's mostly a new thing in like brand new 4K TVs, right? And so like even if you have a PS4 or an OG PS4, and say you have a TV from 2015, you're not going to get HDR because the TV, like to get HDR, your TV has to support it. And most of the newer, the newer 4K TVs are supporting it, but I mean, for most people, they're not going to see any difference. I guarantee you, what's going to happen, Crap, is that they'll push the update out for HDR to all the PS4s, and all of a sudden you'll see, oh my god, this game looks amazing, all the while realizing that they don't have an HDR TV and it's just a placebo effect, So I mean, it's cool that they're doing it, but to take proper advantage of it, you need to go out and buy a TV that supports HDR. And if you notice, though, Fox, I don't know if you saw this, but they didn't say it would support 4K HDR. Just that it would support HDR.
Right.
I got kicked out of my own podcast.
Yeah. I was just saying, Crap, that if you notice, they didn't say it would support 4K HDR. Just that it would support HDR.
Well, what was really funny too was they're like, and every PS4 is going to support HDR, but there's no games that support HDR yet.
Yeah, not yet.
So a lot of people were like, "Hey, that's huge. Everything's going to support HDR." And I'm just thinking the whole time, like, I bet NeoGaf right now loves HDR, even though a couple days ago they were all saying.
That's the thing I don't get. That's the part that confuses my brain. I'm like, wait, but you guys didn't want this, or you thought it was useless, or that you weren't going to see a difference. But yet now that they literally lecture us and gave us a whole breakdown of it, now everybody loves it and is like, yes, I can't wait for this.
Well, Polygon ran a picture in an article. It was like, PlayStation Pro introduces HDR gaming. Here's what it looks like. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the Xbox One introduced HDR gaming. Well, I mean, a game hasn't come out that supported it yet, but they were the first.
Yeah.
So I just I think they might have taken it down.
They did show it off a little bit in E3, like with Gears and Forza, right? So, I mean, we have seen it. It's just we haven't had it in our actual hands yet.
This was one of their worst press conferences.
Yes.
I literally took a nap and everything.
Before you guys joined, I mentioned this. I said this is not Sony, confident Sony right now. This is on their heels Sony, right? I know, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but I'm thinking the entire time I'm watching this, I'm like, Phil, I don't know if he smokes. He must have a cigar in his mouth right now, and he's just kicked back or something. You know what I mean? Because this is when you have people like Greg Miller saying, "Well, I guess the Pro's not for me since I don't have a 4K TV." You know what I mean? You have people that are legitimately ticked off about this, and just hey Tim.
I don't even think Colin liked the system.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Were you surprised by the $299 Slim price point, because that has no 4K Blu-ray player or anything either, or streaming capabilities?
Tim Dog is ready to go. He's been ready and waiting for a long time.
I can't believe they didn't include the UH. I mean, you guys heard me. That was a foregone conclusion that they were going to include that. Wow. I just think it's just come to a point where they're really kind of showing. I don't know why they don't have the UHD player in that. How do you miss that? Like
cost down. I think it's to keep costs down.
I guess it's the cost down, but the problem is that now you have Xbox One S who's now competing with the Pro.
Yeah.
That's what I see the problem for it is. It's like now you just put yourself in a position where, well, okay, the Xbox One S does the upscale, well, it does the HDR. Obviously, it's going to be a lower resolution. They'll do 1080p. They're not going to do native 4K. But okay, now you have a UHD player, which for people that don't know, 4K streaming versus UHD player it's night and day. From a UHD player, if you want a constant stream, a higher bit rate, you're going to use a UHD. It looks better. It's just better, higher quality. The streaming, which is also available on Netflix, HDR, that's already out, that Sony doesn't know about and Polygon doesn't know about. I mean, I cannot believe what is going on. For me, this whole thing. I just shake my head. I mean, this is the time to call them out. They have the same PS4 Slim, no optical port. They basically the biggest thing that they announced was HDR was available for all 40 million. But the thing is that you have to have a 4K TV with HDR.
Tim, can I bring something up real quick? Now They're down to 40 million. Like they've been touting this 40 million for maybe half a year now.
They channel stuffed. They channel stuff because they knew the Slim and the Neo were coming, so they channel stuff. They were the OG one.
You think so? Yeah, exactly. Totally. Because look, they were like 43 million, right? Like 6 months ago, and then they're like 40 million, and now they're touting this 40 million number. It's like, and people can't see that there's something up with this. Like I'm like all over this, like stink on crap. And and I'm tweeting out this. I'm like, this is the reason people are supposed to upgrade. The games didn't even look great. They're gonna look the same, and they're not even like. I know everybody was pumping this.
Yeah, so it can't do 4K native.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Screenshot on their website. Next Level Gaming. This is on Sony's website. With the 4K TV, PS4 games deliver unprecedented visual precision, such as 4K quality resolution.
Yeah.
To give remarkable clarity down to the tiniest detail. Alongside stunningly vibrant HDR colors, your eventuals will burst into life with unbelievable vibrancy. As soon as I found out that the UHD Blu-ray player wasn't included with the system, I thought, can they even do native 4K gaming? And now it's out. It can do what upscaled or quality.
Yeah, it's doing upscale. They're gonna do it.
To be fair, though. The Xbox One S upscales, and Destiny looks fucking goddamn amazing on my 4K TV.
Hey, I'm not saying upscaling is bad. Like, remember how upscaling the 1080p was horrible, though, right? Yeah. I'm just saying there's the hypocrisy is there.
Oh, of course.
And I'm sick of it. You know what I mean?
We talked about it on Xbox Nation a while back. Like, Microsoft and Sony are competing in this space, so each one of them's got to kind of predict what the other one's going to do. I thought Microsoft included the Blu-ray player of the 4K UHD Blu-ray player on the Slim because there was such a long lead time for the Scorpio, and I think they assumed Sony would do the same, right?
Right.
Like, so we need to match feature for feature, and I have a chat with some Xbox people, and like we're watching and typing and watching the thing at the same time, and like none of them could believe that Sony didn't include it. They were like, "What the fuck is Sony doing?"
Yeah.
Like I can't believe it, and the spec sheet came out, and
it was what we said it was.
Did the GPU get a slight increase? It seemed like it went I thought it was originally like 4.14, and this is like 4.14
per the doc.
So it went up by what, 0.06?
So what is it, like 4.2 or something like that, right?
Like 4.2 now.
And 8 gigs of RAM. They didn't up the RAM.
So here's the thing. The documents are right because it said 2 times the double, and some of us were like, well, that's like 4.14, but really it's more like 4.20. I guess, so that's fine. It's the same Jaguar CPU, overclocked, the same 8 gigs of GDDR5, a 1 terabyte thing. They acted like that was a huge deal, right? Like, woo! Hey, what's up, Xbot? Yeah.
What's going on, man? Yo, what the What did we just watch, man?
Well, here's the thing. I was like, okay, they bring out Andrew House, who sounds like he like inhaled helium before he
Yeah.
went out on stage, right? So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be funny. So he starts talking about it, and they show off the Slim, which we saw, that leaked a while ago. And then they show off, they bring out Mark Cerny, who is the most monotone person ever. And I'm like, if this guy's putting me to sleep, man. I'm sitting here like,
if you need to go to sleep, he's the right guy to read you a
He
bedtime
sounded like he was talking to 3-year-olds the entire time.
well, that's
Yep.
why that was his job, right? Like they picked this guy because of that, probably because he speaks to people like they're idiots. He's like, well, so this is what we're gonna do. But the thing is, the whole time they're talking about, he's like temporal resolution and this, right? I'm like, they're dancing around the fact that this thing cannot do native 4K gaming. It can't do it. They're like temporal upscaling, and then I'm like, basically, this is.
When I saw that, I was not to throw up.
Dude, they spent a whole section talking about upscaling without saying upscaling.
Yeah, and people, dude, I got people messaging me on Xbox Live. They're like, "It's over for Xbox," but it does everything. Yeah, dude, I'm not kidding. Somebody messaged me, and he's like, "It's over. PS4 Pro does everything." I'm like, everything except do native 4K gaming or play a 4K Blu-ray, right? Because like people don't understand that that's what Sony. That's why they couldn't call it the PS4 Pro or 4K, right?
Wow.
Like if you look at what Ryan McCaffrey said this morning, he goes, "I'm going to go ahead and guess that they're going to call it the PS4K," and I'm like, Ryan, dude, they can't do that. That's that would be misleading the consumers flat out because that doesn't do games native 4K. You can't say something's 4K. That's why I think there's this whole stickler thing with the 4K on the box stuff. You know what I mean? Like people are like, "Why isn't Microsoft pimping 4K more?" And I'm thinking, well, hey, we got like over 700 people watching us. What's up?
Nice. What's going
yeah,
on?
I really don't understand why the Slim was even there. That kind of like confused me because
Slim
it does the
price point.
same thing as the one that my brothers already have, and it is going to have HDR. So yay, HDR for everybody. And I think the only great thing that we got out of that whole thing was like Mass Effect. That's about it.
That's true.
Well,
Mass Effect
so you guys.
who called that a long time ago, Crap?
Yeah, you did. Okay, like I admit you're right, but I will say this, right? Like they're showing a Horizon Zero Dawn, which looks good, but it looked good when we first saw it 2 years ago, right? They showed Mass Effect, but that's gonna look the same on every. Like I'm not understanding. Like, look, Phil was right. I hate people have to admit this now. Phil's like no half steps. If you're gonna upgrade, upgrades to where there's something noticeable. You know what I mean? Like to me, this Pro stuff isn't noticeable. And like, if anybody was really thinking, man, I can't wait to get me a PS4 Pro, like, did they sell anybody on that in this room?
Crap. The one thing I was actually asking like the Don and O Snaps, I was like, who is gonna jump to buy this? Like, if you're not like a straight like PlayStation fan, because the casual market is the bigger market, right? When you have a 1S and you look at the features and stuff, you have the Ultra Blu-ray player in the 1S. You don't have it in the Pro. Everything else, HDR, 4K upscaling, everything like that, like, why would you pay more money for the Pro when you could get that all in an Ultra HD Blu-ray in the 1S? I don't get like how they would capture a market with that.
Yeah. Hey, She-Wolf, you joined too.
Oh my god, like everyone knows how I feel about hardware, but that was just completely ridiculous.
She couldn't hold it in.
Look what I just
Oh
retweeted.
my God!
Look what I just retweeted. Oh, it's so awesome. So funny.
Hey, hold on. Did you just retweet? Because I know Xbox, the official Twitter, retweeted.
Oh, that was a good tweet right there.
Yeah, Xbox tweeted out. What did Xbox tweet out? They're like, out now, 4K Blu-ray player.
No. Just look right now.
No, just I want to hear your reaction for this. Just look.
I'm looking. Hold on.
I'm going.
Okay, I retweeted too, so it's on mine.
All right, hold on. I'm still looking. Hold on.
Nibel.
Okay, how to play Ultra HD Blu-ray movies on your Xbox One S. That's
Look at
wow.
Larry. That's the best.
I'm gonna retweet that now.
I'm stealing that picture.
Wow.
I'm retweeting that now, yo. Oh
Wow.
my goodness.
Oh wait, hold on. So Aaron Greenberg actually tweeted something too. Proud to bring true 4K gaming and most powerful console ever made. Project Scorpio.
Yeah, and he
in
retweeted the PS4 Pro specs.
Oh man,
yeah, that's
Hey.
what I'm talking about.
Hey, Mikey Barra tweeted out that thing too, and I was like, never change, Mike, because I like confident.
Oh, yeah.
Look, do you guys? Okay, and I asked a little bit earlier, but just around the panel, do you guys notice Sony very timid now? Microsoft like pouncing, man, like they're a like damn lion, man. They're like, "Roar," you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
look at okay. You know, the one guy that came out and started talking, I literally was texting GKB and I'm like, I'm going to fall asleep. I have never heard someone so boring when they actually are trying to explain something that is supposed to be the next best thing. And it was just so disappointing. And for Sony, just the way their conference was going, and nobody even clapped when they actually
There was
revealed
one.
them.
There was one.
Yeah, that one guy. That one guy. Yeah.
Literal crickets when they showed off that fucking triple decker cheeseburger that that was the design. There was like, and the guy's like $3.99 and on November 10th, and there was like one guy, and I was like, oh my god, like none of the press. You know, Mooch's press, the media bias stuff. Like, not a single person.
And then let's be honest.
They were in shock.
Their whole entire demo reel that they seem to focus this thing around, which I thought it was supposed to be more focused around actually the systems, not the games that they're apparently bringing out. They were all multi-plat games.
yeah, well, they don't have any games.
There was maybe, two? Spider-Man, who no one even knows when that's coming out, and then
Yeah.
Forza Horizon,
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes, it's
Sorry,
Zero
it's
Dawn,
so
yeah.
close because someone's got to steal close to names again. But it's just so hilarious because that's what they did. Like, okay, so you're gonna show multiplats and pretty much kind of come off like as if they're all just your games, because let's be honest, that's kind of how they tried to portray it. And they're like, oh yeah, the games are gonna look amazing on us, and then they're going on Pro. Oh my god, PlayStation Pro, like.
I don't know what that is, but
I don't know. That was hurtful.
Oh,
That was the house.
oh, okay. Well. Anyway, like it's so funny because they're like they gloss over the specs real quick, right? They're like, yeah, we got double the GPU, we overclocked the CPU for you, but yeah, let's go. We got 8 billion transistors. I mean, I'm thinking that the whole time, right? I'm like, and then they're talking about, like they didn't mention they have a 4K Blu-ray player, but they do have 4K streaming services and Netflix. And I'm thinking, I tweeted out, I'm like, Microsoft has that right now on the Xbox One S, the 4K Netflix.
Yeah.
All that same content.
Nah,
And
they're
the
getting their own
prices.
special app.
Like, even look at the freaking prices that they're putting up for this. Like $3.99 for their triple layer cake. Go buy a freaking Xbox. You'll get more quality stuff with it. With having the Slim, you can go buy a freaking. Does anyone even know the size? Like, did they even say the terabytes that were going to be in this?
I was gonna say, did you see the actual size of the console when he held it up to his
Yeah,
chest?
big.
Like, that thing was huge. yo.
Apparently, it's like
Like-
10 pounds or something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's pretty hefty, and again, like I'm watching this thing and I'm like, wow, this is not. So they need a Jack Tretton type person because they
do.
brought out. You know what? I was a little bit offended. Mark Cerny was treating people like they're idiots. Like, the way he would, like, that's how maybe you would talk to a little kid. Like, okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Mark
little
Tretton
boys
would
and
have sold the
girls.
shit.
Oh yeah, like
He would have sold the
with
shit out of that
3-year-olds.
system.
Yeah, he
Like
would've.
3-year-olds, man.
Yeah, he's like here you go. Like this is what it's all about, an HDR. And the whole time I'm like, Microsoft has been pimping HDR since E3,
No.
and now you guys
How
are
many,
acting
how many terabytes is this actually selling
One.
with?
1 terabyte.
1
1
terabyte.
terabyte.
For $3.99
Yeah,
Yep.
with no Blu-ray player.
no 4K Blu-ray player.
Or yes, no 4K. Like,
Yeah,
seriously?
yeah.
No
That's like
4K.
the only question I can
Blu-ray
ask right now. Is
No native 4K gaming.
Yeah.
They cheapened out, which
They
is
cheaped
probably
out.
really means crap.
Did
'Cause they
anyone
made sure
watch?
to
Did anyone watch the after show where they were like, "Oh, we just wanted to bring out something that's not the next generation of consoles." Like they even made it clear that this was just something that they wanted to bring out for everybody, but this is not actually their new generation of consoles.
Well, that's why they called it PS4 Pro, because they made sure to be like, this isn't the PS5. But I think this kind of reinforces the idea that Scorpio is the next generation, even though Microsoft will say that it's not, and that PS5, the true PS5, will be out either the year after Scorpio or 2 years later. So you're probably looking at 2018 or 2019
Yeah.
for the actual next PlayStation.
Yeah. I would guess probably 2019. Maybe.
I would. Yeah, you're probably looking at 3 years. I don't know if that. I don't know if they can turn around a true next gen competitor to Scorpio in 2 years.
Yeah. Well. Here's the funny thing. Like Microsoft aren't stupid this time around. You know what I mean? Like they must have known like all along what was going on. Because if you look at that sketch from the Foxconn guy, that's exactly what it is. That triple decker thing.
Yeah.
And that's what he sketched months ago, right?
Oh wow,
So
yeah.
that means that they must have sketched that prior to E3. You know what I mean? That thing was already in production because I know that the documents were out because me and Tim Dog and we all had them.
Yeah.
So we were reading them and stuff and like, how's NeoGAF? Like, does anybody know how they are? I mean, they got to be pretty
They're
upset.
they're pretty upset about the UHD thing. That's where that picture come from the Bell that retweeted. But I have a little question for the panel right now. Did you guys see the Polygon tweet? I don't know if you talk about that.
Somebody said they deleted it.
They deleted it. The Polygon tweet was basically saying that PS4 Plus Pro is the first to do HDR gaming, to introduce HDR gaming. Now, this just goes to show you that they do not know, they don't do their work, or they just don't believe Xbox exists, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. They deleted the tweet because it was completely wrong. But that's the type of stuff that we've talked about on BGST and a lot about the media bias. I mean, that's clear as day. Right now, everyone in the media kind of has to say, this is a little bit of a cheap out. I mean, the UHD player thing is, even Fox was like, what? I mean, that's that was I couldn't believe it. I mean, so... What do you guys think on that? How do you think the media is gonna interpret this?
I want to see at least a couple of media articles saying, "I'm confused. Sony announced two consoles."
You're not gonna see that.
Shut up. I'm gonna see. I'm confused. Sony announced two consoles that are coming out within 2 months of each other. This is crazy. How can this be? I'm totally confused. Right? Like, we got to hear that, right? Because obviously we all know why PS4 Pro's out, but you heard them say it. It improves frame rate on VR. I mean, they gloss over that fact. But look, things aren't going well for Sony, right? They're back down to 40 million apparently sold. Yeah, they got this Slim that's selling at the same price but has none of the features that the Xbox One S. They've got this PS4 Pro that doesn't do native 4K, even though they're like never actually came out and said that. They danced around it. I've never heard, like, they should be politicians. They do more politician stuff than any Trump or Hillary thing, right? They are just dancing all. I'm like, did they just say that we can't do native 4K gaming without actually saying that? Because that's what they did. You know what I mean?
It reminded me of the 2013 reveal at Xbox.
Yes.
Where it was like, here's a system, and what does it do? 3 billion transistors.
Hey, and they showed off TV. They showed off TV and like streaming for those of you that like this. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, okay. And then they showed off like some of the same stuff they showed off at E3, like that Spider-Man game. And I'm just thinking to myself, they are really kind of crapping the bed here. Like, that's not going to go over well. I'm not sure.
Maybe the stories we all heard. Maybe Microsoft really caught them off guard with everything. The Slim, the Scorpio.
Did anyone? Sorry,
ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off. I was just curious. Did anyone notice when they were actually showing Horizon Dawn that it was actually lagging when she was trying to like walk up the hill?
Yeah. Did you see the pop-in as well?
And I saw the screen tearing all over Mass Effect Andromeda 2, but I mean,
well, those are early games. Shit happens. I mean, when they showed Scalebound for the first time back at Gamescom at a pretty shitty frame rate, so.
Yeah, I mean, I get that stuff happens, but that was supposed to be running off the PS4 Pro, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the game doesn't come out. I mean,
yeah, but
it comes out.
I was just getting to the point, like what Travis said. They said it was on the Pro, so it was supposed to look like this amazing game.
And what do you like? Their big thing was like people were messaging me like, "Crap, you're wrong. Like Sony's gonna have HDR." Like I knew they were gonna have HDR. You know what I mean?
I mean, they would have to. I mean, yeah, Xbox has it.
Actually,
they have to get some part of it.
That's a good thing. The fact that they have, as an Xbox fans, we should all be happy.
Yeah, it's true.
Sony's using HDR because this means that developers will all start using HDR, and as we all start to upgrade our consoles and TVs and things like that, we'll get HDR games. So whatever, like Call of Duty, they're like, it's going to be HDR. Guess what? that means Call of Duty is going to be HDR on Xbox One S too.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And again, PlayStation that we have right now is going to have HDR. So
Yeah.
there is no reason to have a Slim. I don't understand. That's the part that bothers me about the whole thing. Why was the Slim even there? It brought nothing to the table.
That's the new one going forward. I guess it probably saves them money.
It
But
looks
I was
like
actually
shit.
surprised that it was not 250.
Yeah, but okay. So like when we originally talked about this, I thought maybe the Slim would be 250 just because I didn't think they would sell at the same price as the Xbox One S. So, but like when you actually look, like say you were actually interested in buying a PlayStation this year, right? So you got the 290. Like for me, for instance, if I wanted to get one, so I have the Slim, which has removed an optical out. I think it doesn't look as good as the original OG PS4. But then for $100 more, I could get the Neo. Granted, the Neo doesn't do native 4K, but it seems like it's a hell of a lot better than the OG PS4 and the PS4 Slim. So for an extra $100 more, I can get a better system. I wonder if Sony is trying to push consumers to the Neo or to the Pro. I mean, because $100 is not that much of a big difference. I mean, like at all.
Can I ask you guys something? If they come out and say Xbox Scorpio is Xbox Pro, how pissed are you going to be? Because that's kind of lame.
Right? I mean, right? I mean, crap. If you were in the market for a PlayStation, wouldn't by default you would get the Pro just because of what the Pro offers over the Slim for an extra $100? I mean, am I wrong for thinking that?
No, because look, the regular PlayStation, like the fat model, are still $350. So why wouldn't you do that for $400? You know what I mean? And I do think that they were very cost-cuttive with what they did, and I think that Microsoft really caught them off guard. But for me, there is absolutely I would actually, I didn't get to watch Next Gen doing his thing, but I would be curious if he was even interested in this, because he was really talking about visual fidelity, and now the only visual fidelity is it's the same textures and stuff. It's just the resolution. You know what I mean? It's just like upscale textures and stuff. So
if you really have the money and you're looking forward to VR, yeah, definitely the Pro. But other than that, no.
The classroom for upscaling was absolutely incredible. My boy Fuskies was like, "Yo, it's like we went to class to learn about HDR and everything that we already learned with the Xbox One S."
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, here's Ryan McCaffrey's again. Like I'm not blocked by him anymore, so I follow him. He says, "Hot take: 6 teraflops ain't gonna matter if Scorpio is $100 more than PS4 Pro." Not with the lead and mindshare advantage Sony has.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. My response was, the PS4 Pro does nothing that the Xbox One S can't do for $100 less. Both upscale only to 4K, and both have HDR. But the Xbox One S has 4K Blu-ray player. So I mean,
yeah, Ryan just always likes to be that guy. That's his MO. That's what he does. To be honest, he was saying it was PlayStation 4K in the tweet, and you corrected him saying he can't do it. So at the moment,
you saw that.
Yeah, maybe he should shine up. Maybe he should shine up his game, because we don't know what Scorpio is going to have. Scorpio could have a Zen. It's going to be more expensive, but you know what? The thing is going to be
Scorpio is going to have the Zen, Tim.
We'll see, but I mean, we don't know. That's
I put myself out there, man.
Control tweet because he just likes to be that guy. But in the fact of the matter is that the Neo has a huge miss with that UHD, because now it kind of puts himself in. You could argue that Xbox One S is competing with Pro. And you didn't want that from the Pro's sake. From Xbox One S, sure, you take it. You're $100 less. So his same argument can be used against him. So just like you pointed out, the bottom line is that if you're not gonna, listen, you go to Best Buy and you're a casual, okay, and you go and I buy a 4K TV, they're gonna say, well, you're gonna need a player. You know how that conversation says. Most of the time you would just, say PS4, or they both do it. Now you're only pointing at one. You're saying that is the only one that does with UHD discs. So this movie that you want to buy, Star Wars, will only work on Xbox One S. That's a big miss.
It is. Because I see people buying the 4K Ultra Blu-rays. Like, I know that a lot of people, like Rand, you said it earlier, a lot of people do stream. I don't have the internet to stream 4K yet. So...
yeah, there's people out there that like physical media. They collect. I've seen people that have a large collection of Blu-rays.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I'm gonna get the S, the Gears one, and I'm getting a 4K TV this year, so I will start buying like the Ultra Blu-rays and stuff like that, and probably pirate some 4K stuff.
Oh wow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, sorry, I got this cough. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So that's basically how I'll be getting my content until my internet can match that. But as far as what that was like one of the worst conferences I've ever seen. That was worse in my opinion than the Xbox One reveal. Sony was dancing all around. They're very not, I can't be the only one that's pissed at because they dance around stuff like that thing's not native 4K. Why were there so many questions that have to be asked after? Like, does this thing have a 4K Blu-ray player? Can it do 4K native gaming?
We're trying to avoid all of that.
But what about this, all right? Like in a multiplayer game, if you're on the Pro, are you going to have a better frame rate than someone that's on a standard PS4? Like, isn't that stuff that they should have, like, explained to people, like, right out of the, right out of the gate, right? Because they didn't really answer any of that stuff, and now we know the answer to some of it, but just, like, your opinions on it.
Oh, see, I think what they decided to do is, like I said before, they decided to take people to class over HDR. So this way they can pump up their kind of pro PlayStation group to be like, well, hey, at least they explained it fully. Now I get it, and PlayStation's got it with the stronger GPU and stuff like that. But they should definitely have explained those other things. We were left at the end of the conference kind of scratching our heads. It's like, well, what about the Blu-ray player? What is it? And like,
oh yeah, Crap did mention that we're gonna have questions after the conference. So there you go.
Many after, like
There you go.
And they talked down to who they were talking to. Like I said, it sounded like they were talking to like 3-year-old kids. Like, all right, guys, this is what HDR is now, and here's how we do it. Okay, like it was absolutely horrible.
Well, hey, check this out. Polygon made this other tweet now. Sony gets HDR gaming for the first time thanks to the PS4 Pro. Yes, that's their new tweet. And then, like 19 minutes ago, they have Microsoft hits Sony where it hurts. Microsoft fires back at Sony over lack of 4K Blu-ray support. Claims it's on now, quote unquote. I swear.
That's a good one.
I am not joking. Wow.
To tell you the truth, I don't feel like we got much out of this conference. I mean, anything that they said today, they could have mentioned at E3, really, when you think about it.
Well, they couldn't because...
Well, no, they should. I mean, I think they should have. But
well,
yeah, go ahead.
But we talked about it before. The reason they had this separate event is because Microsoft beat them to the punch with a better Slim and a better next-gen system, or Scorpio, right? So Sony's not going to come on second and be like, hey, guys, we have a worse Slim and a worse next mid-upgrade system. Like, that's just not going to... That just looks bad.
Oh, man, they should have manned up. Because right now, they showing it today like if we forgot about the Xbox.
I was gonna say, it didn't help waiting so long, though, if you really think about it.
It's closer to the release date for it. I'm sure, this gives them at least the advantage of having their own press cycle, because right now, well, actually, they picked the wrong day because Apple did their press conference today, so maybe not. But
they had Nintendo there. I'm like, holy cow.
Nintendo there, but I mean, it's just Sony won up Microsoft with the Xbox One in 2013. Microsoft has now got the leg up on Sony for at least a couple years until Sony decides to do a PS5, and then it's like we're back in the spec war. We're in this like we're in this going to be in a war where it's just like people are going to be like, oh no, well Scorpio 2's out in 2021, and then PS5 Pro's out in 2023, and then
unless the Scorpio is upgradable.
Well, I mean, even if it's upgradable, right, well, true, but then you could upgrade it every couple. It'll be like every couple years.
I told everybody that there wasn't going to be any upgradable stuff. Like there was that rumor floating around that the Pro would be upgradable, right? And this is my thinking. Sony, look, they copied Apple down to a T. They like that whole Apple aspect of selling people new stuff every few years. Expect a new console every 3 to 4 years. That's what they're going to do. That gets people excited. That pushes console. Look at the PS4 sales.
Nobody. When he sent the link out to everyone, nobody jumped in, so he started sending it to like.
Yeah, that's what we did, She-Wolf. Exactly.
Where'd you get that locked?
Oh, okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So anyway, they're copying Apple. That event was basically them trying to do an Apple and a really piss poor job of it. Yeah, so I would expect Microsoft to do the same. We'll get a new console or a refresh console every 3 to 4 years. If Microsoft is smart, they'll be like, here's the Scorpio is now the Xbox One Pro. It's still this generation. You know what I mean? Just like,
Well, I
Go
just think the overall, the iteration portion, like people are saying, well, it's going to happen in 2 years or in a year after. It's not. I don't see that. I see this as a mid console refresh for PS4 and also a mid console refresh for Xbox One. The only difference is, and I said this from the start on the onset of VR. VR is Sony's focus. So in the fact that they got the VR
and phones
headset,
now, and phones. Did you hear that?
Well,
their focus
You're going
is
mobile.
yeah.
well, you know, and PC. But they had to pick between 2016 and 2017. They could have waited, but that would have hurt their PSVR. So instead, they took this route. For whatever reason, didn't include a UHD player. Kudos to Xbox for knowing that people want to have 4K and they want to have native 4K and they don't want to always stream 4K, which is, you know, dependent on your internet connection and is still lower quality. But I don't see a console right after this. I see in 2020 maybe Sony hitting something, but I think that this generation is going to last a little bit longer.
So I don't know if you guys saw this, but apparently Crystal Dynamic producer on the Sony thing after the press conference said that Rise of the Tomb Raider will have 3 modes on PlayStation 4 Pro. It'll have 4K mode, which is the big resolution the developers made for the optimal choices for the game. It'll have a 1080p high frame rate, locked at 60 frames per second mode, and then a 1080p with all the bells and whistles, 30 frames per second locked, with every processing technique pushed to the max. So, I guess, yeah. I mean, that is. I mean, because it'd be interesting if they would explain that during the press conference, like, because then at least you could. Okay, so you get a PS Pro, and then these are the things you could do. Like, if you have a 4K TV, push it to the max, or if you just want 1080p at 60, right, you can do that, and there's a mode for this. Or if you just want 1080p at 30, but with all the bells and whistles, do this. That's interesting. So
that's
I mean,
more interesting. That's more interesting than than I guess probably than what they did, what they said. You know what I'm saying? And I would still have my doubts whether that's the if it's native 4K or if that's like the.
It's not native. 4K game. They called it 4K.
It'll be upscaled. Yeah, it'll be upscaled.
Okay. So the people in the chat that are like, oh my gosh, 4K native Tomb Raider, and no, you're not going to get a 4K native.
Well, no, but I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, I think that is an interesting way to do this, like, and try to sell it to consumers, like the people who play Call of Duty. If you have the PS4 Pro, like, it'd be interesting if you could actually choose, like, hey, I want to play Call of Duty at 1080p 60 locked, or I want to play 1080p. Well, I guess it's always 60, but it's an interesting choice. I wonder how many devs are actually going to do this, though. So
that sounds great, but is that only for single player? Because multiplayer is going to be the same for everybody.
They specified that multiplayer it has to be the exact same. PS4 Pro, and
I was gonna say.
Like, you can't give any advantage to people on multiplayer. But like, for someone like me who likes single player stuff, like, if I'm going to get Scorpio, I would want Leaf to be, outside of a resolution difference, I would also want an increased frame rate difference. Right. Things that, because I'm a stickler for frame rate, not so much for resolution, but like, give me a stable frame rate and make me happy. I don't, even though I've been gaming in 4K recently.
And how is that, Rand?
That 4K, okay, so Destiny looks fucking fantastic in 4K upscaled. I know it's not native 4K, but oh my fuck, like, literal words when I saw my ship, come in.
Yeah.
I literally said, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe the clarity, the vividness, the different colors.
Did
the
you
picture
cry?
Popped.
Did you cry, Rand?
I didn't cry. But then I played, but then went to the tower, and there was colors I didn't notice before, and it was just, it was an amazing experience. But then I played Rainbow Six, and it didn't look any different. I played iZombie, and it didn't look any different. Turing Test looked a little bit better, but not that noticeable. Hue looked a lot better, because that game's all about the colors, because the colors just pop more. It was a lot better. But I guess it depends on the games and the developers and what they're using. I haven't gone back. I mean, I haven't loaded up. Doom looked fucking fantastic. I did load that up. That game looked great in 4K. But
Hey, that game! I started that game. That game looks great in 1080p.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been digging that game, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I think now we're gonna see the whole 4K Blu-ray player doesn't matter argument. I'm sure we're gonna see that. We're probably gonna see HDR is great and amazing.
Yeah, now we all love it. Now that's
now HDR is a thing, right?
Yeah. Now it's a thing. Now it'll be explained to you by the media. Like, here's what HDR is. You know, when Microsoft announced it was exclusive, there wasn't much talk about it. So you just kind of see the coverage at a contrast. You know, I mean, Polygon, like I said, didn't even know, and then they delete the tweet. I don't know how these people are getting paid. Do they work? Do they understand like what's going on? It seems like the people on this panel have a much better understanding than the people that are in the business. That does not make any sense to me.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The whole time, like I said, I'm sitting there watching that. I'm like, wow, this is really, really bad. And what's also funny is because, like there's all the fans and stuff that we all have, and they've been sending me because I don't follow a lot of these sites anymore. I stopped. I cut them off with all the BS. You know what I mean? Like they completely try to throw Microsoft under the bus, and now I think they're starting to realize. And somebody just sent me shout out to Xbox One. He sent me this Kotaku article. It says the internet reacts to the PlayStation 4 Pro. A lot of people not impressed.
They shouldn't be.
Yes,
that's what you know. That's the truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, She-Wolf, did you get that? Is that not creepy? Yeah.
I'm looking forward to third-party support for HDR. Hey, what's up?
Not for anything, but now I am really hoping that for the Xbox anniversary and stuff. I am really hoping Microsoft does their own type of conference before the end of the year, and I want
that would be amazing.
Oh my goodness, man!
Yep.
Jaws and mic drop everywhere. Fucking confetti flying all over the place. It's done, dude.
You know what the best thing the last couple of days is? The number one most important thing from today and yesterday?
What's that?
Global achievement rarity.
Oh!
That is the absolute most important fucking thing that Microsoft has done since 2006, 2005 when they introduced that. Like you have no idea. Like Tim saw me when Mike told me about it yesterday.
You sent me a DM.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't I've been asking for that feature for since I met Mike. Like, please. Because I met Tim, I'm like, please, just give me this. Because I know they can't do other things, but please do this. I know you guys can. And then he was like, I approved the final design today. Hope you like it. I'm like, fuck yes, Mike. You're the best. I love you. I love you.
I didn't know.
You know, there's another really good thing that came out of today was the fact that with PlayStation using HDR, right? And we already know Microsoft has it in the One S. The thing is, Microsoft is actually working with TV companies to expand HDR. So they're on the front lines of pushing HDR even further. Now, with both of these companies using HDR, that means that basically the TVs are going to go, HDR is going to be mainstream. And Microsoft's there to innovate it and push it even further.
Hey, GKB, welcome.
What's up, man?
It's the governor.
Hey, did you catch any of that Sony press conference?
Did I catch any of this press conference? Come on now. You know I did.
Tell me what you thought, man, because you just jumped in. I'm curious to hear what the governor thought about. I mean, are you going to get your PS4 Pro pre-order in?
No. Not gonna happen.
What? But you told me. Oh no, you changed your mind. Okay.
Yeah. Man, you know what? I had to go get a cup of coffee every once in a while, man, because I was totally falling asleep during that freaking press conference.
Cerny is the most awful.
He is. Oh my God! Why did they put him up on the freaking stage? I have no idea.
You know what? I have no idea either. I'm not exactly sure what they were thinking. Again,
I got a question for you guys. So everyone out there that was against temporal rendering and stuff with quantum break and all that kind of stuff, is it cool now that the PS4 Pro is going to be doing it so they can upscale to 4K?
Oh, and HDR is cool now as well, and
yeah.
Announcing two consoles and releasing them within 2 months from each other. That's not confusing at all.
I'm totally confused. How many PS4s do we got?
PS4. Hey, wait, there's over 900 people watching us. That's
Woo.
that's impressive.
Nice.
That's. I think that's like a record too. That might even be more than what I had after the E3 stuff, when Microsoft actually like destroyed the universe with the Scorpio announcement. But now,
With the mic drop.
everybody that was questioning that stuff now, I bet you feel foolish now, right? You have to. Because why? Because Microsoft did what they had to do. They announced a Slim that's actually an upgrade, and they also announced a more powerful iteration to the mid-console cycle upgrade as well. Because let's face it, Phil Spencer was forward-thinking, right? And also, did you guys were a little bit annoyed when they're like, forward compatibility? And I'm like, Microsoft talked about that a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, forward
But
compatibility.
Sony said it, so it's true.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, just like when Microsoft was like, Scorpio is going to be a 4K native gaming machine, and they're like, the media is like, we doubt that, we're dubious. But of course, Neo at the time was going to be all about 4K gaming and all that stuff. So yeah, but I you know, that I thought it was absolutely hilarious. They basically, I don't know, that was probably the worst conference I've seen since the $5.99 PS3 conference, and since the 2000s, I didn't mind the reveal so much as other people for the Xbox One, but a lot of people hated it, and I can understand where that came from. This was a ballless, you know, just scared, timid thing, and it didn't even need an event for this, in my opinion.
Ballless.
You know, and they couldn't even get any applause. Like, and I tweeted that out at the end. I was like, what? They couldn't bring in the normal shills that clap for them, you know? Because after the thing, it was like, and Mooch would be. I bet Mooch tonight is gonna be like all over the place on this stuff. But like with the one-handed. I mean, that's basically what it was. You know, it came down to people weren't impressed, and I wasn't impressed. I was ready to give it a chance. Like, Sony usually can at least spin stuff and make things seem interesting, right?
Mm-hmm,
but with this, it was boring. It was bad. And I'm thinking, like, the whole time I'm like thinking about all the Xbox fans that have kind of stepped out of the dark times now, because that's gone now. The 2013, that's years ago. And just looking forward, I'd say wouldn't you go, just going around, not even being fanboys or fangirls, wouldn't you say that the Xbox side looks brighter right now than the PlayStation side?
Absolutely.
Dude, hands down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hands down, man. With the One S compared to the Pro, you're getting your Ultra HD Blu-ray player, still the cheapest one on the market, and people are going to pay $100 more for the Pro. I don't think so. And then you got the Scorpio coming out next year. There's no way. Hands down.
I'm not gonna lie. I expected more from the PlayStation Pro or whatever. I was expecting, you know, them to be showing off all the specs, and they seem like they were holding back and just telling you this is basically what it has, which was basically the same thing as the one, but with, I don't know, 4K and stuff.
Did you see the weird stuff that I get sent, Rand? I sent you that, right?
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
And I sent it to She-Wolf and Fox too. Like, wow, I get weird stuff, man. I don't even know what to say. Some of you people are weird, but I got like almost 1,000 people watching me.
I'm
You
looking
gotta
at that. I was
love
about to say,
that, follow.
come on, guys. You think we could go over 1,000 here?
It'd be interesting, and I haven't even
damn close.
and I haven't even got Mooch in here yet. Like for tonight, like I was just like, you know, people are like, crap, you got to give me what you thought. And I thought that was the most hilariously boring, awful thing I've seen, and that's not even have anything to do with being a Xbox guy versus a PlayStation guy. It just has to do with the facts. You know what I mean? They weren't that just wasn't well done. They were stuttering all over the place. They danced around whether it could do native 4K or not. They didn't really show off anything live. You know, it was like stuff that they were showing was just,
the pre-recorded gameplay and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So somebody just asked for a recap real quick. Yeah, I'll top you guys off real quick. Okay, so PS4 Slim, no 4K Blu-ray player. That's going to be $299. And that can't. I don't believe that can stream 4K media or anything. But Sony did announce that they're going to do HDR update via a firmware update for all the PlayStation 4 models. But there's no games currently that support HDR. So, and you need an HDR TV to even see it. So I guess that's kind of pointless. PS4 Pro, as it's called, is $399, 1 terabyte hard drive. The specs were legit that leaked earlier, 4.2 teraflops. Same Jaguar CPU, just overclocked. Like I said, $399. No 4K Blu-ray player though. They actually didn't say anything about native 4K gaming. They talked about temporal resolution, which isn't native. They talked about HDR like we've never heard the word before. The interesting thing about the Pro mode will be same exact textures, only like upscaled or whatever. So it's going to probably do a couple different. It's going to like detect what your TV has and all this kind of stuff or whatever. And I would assume, wouldn't you guys, that Scorpio does the same? Like don't you think like Scorpio would be smart to do something like that? Like, okay, well, do you want to play 4K 30 native, or do you want to play 1080p 60? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you assume that would do something like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think it's going to give you the option to choose what you want to do.
It'll be a lot easier to do as well. The developers don't have to do as much to the game to get it to that point either.
Well, they won't even have to do anything at all. Once you plug it into a 1080p TV, it's going to downsample anyway to 1080p. It doesn't matter anyway.
That is very true.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's definitely it's definitely an interesting thing. I just to me, that's not what I'm used to from Sony. Like, I expected more hype. There's not really much more I can say about that. Just,
HDR School. That should be the name of the conference. HDR School.
I went back, and me and Tim talked about this the other day, but because we were wondering how long the conference was going to be, and I thought it would be about an hour, and he was like, "Nah, they'll be longer than that." And then I went back and I looked at how long.
Like 40 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 45 minutes. Like how long the actual original PS4 reveal was back in February of 2013, and it was 2 hours long.
Wow.
Right? I'm like, wow. And then when watching this, it's just like, yes, Mark Cerny giving us all a lesson about 4K and HDR.
As if we're idiots.
Right. Mm-hmm. Kind of, and his buddy, my buddy Magic was like, is it just me, or he seems like a serial killer? Like that voice and stuff.
I would say the same
and
thing.
I was like, okay. And then they show clips, like, look at Spider-Man in 4K. Okay, it looks cool. Look at Horizon Zero Dawn, where you now have, it's like a walking tower that you got to climb in Assassin's Creed to get the map. Cool, yeah. Look really cool. I mean, that's the one game I'm kind of interested in. But like, nobody's playing it, so it's all just video. They talk all this good game about 4K and all that stuff, but don't include a 4K Blu-ray player and don't have native 4K gaming. The only thing good about that whole press conference was, in my opinion, the price of the Pro. I think $400 is a good price for it. I think $300 for the Slim is a terrible price.
Agreed.
But that's pretty much my takeaway from it. I think Sony got surprised by Microsoft and everything they're doing. Microsoft one-upped them in everything, and they can't go back to the drawing board. This is 3 years of development of work in progress, millions and millions of dollars in R&D. You can't just shelve that shit like some people were saying that you could. Just shelve it and push it to next year and increase it to the. No, that's not how this shit works.
Yeah. Not only does that not how it works, but because and I try to tell people this because how Xbox fans are a little bit jaded and worried because of what happened before, right? They're like, I don't know, maybe Microsoft, should have let Sony go first and all this. I'm like, look, you can go last and first and still come out on top, and their E3 proves it. Microsoft gave Sony months to outdo them, and they failed to do so, and that's the bottom line because Crapgamer said so.
Tim just told me that the PS4 Pro weighs more than the OG Xbox One.
OG Xbox One, yeah, it's like 10 pounds or something. It's like
when I first saw it, that was the first thing I thought about was like the size of it, and it's already made horribly. So how is it not going to overheat? It might as well just be a heater in your freaking house throughout the wintertime.
I can't believe that sketch was fucking real, though, dude. Like, I was like, no way, they're not going to design that with like an extra layer on top of it, because the extra layer, you're getting the Pro and not like the OG.
Looks like a three-tier cake, man.
Yeah.
And it was real. I mean, shit.
I know people that play PlayStation besides my brothers, and they were like, I hope that's not real, and there you go.
Did they fire like their whole design team and then just brought in some people to do this? Like,
they were like, hey, the PS4 looks good. What do you say we add another decker on top of that? Just call it a day. You know what I mean? Like, I guess they wanted to try to make it look like a similar design. I don't know. Like, to me, the whole thing was very unimpressive.
This conference felt like them catching up. That's what it felt like.
Hey, NeoGaf, how's that 5.5 teraflop bump, guys? Rack them up.
What about that PlayStation Nova, bro?
Oh, yeah. How about that, man? Rack them up.
How are your buddies doing today?
Oh, I can imagine that they are not too happy. Yeah, I mean, look, they're just gonna have to deal with they're not gonna have the most powerful console, that they're not gonna be able to talk up resolution or anything like that. That now they're gonna have to act like upscaling to a certain resolution is the best thing ever.
It's so funny reading comments in the chat because they're like, "Oh, Xbox fags are just mad." What do we have to be mad about?
You should be.
I'm not mad at all. I'm actually incredibly happy because you do worry that Sony is slick and they might pull something out because PlayStation's all they have left basically, and they have a conference to show off 2 consoles and that's it. Like, look, if they wanted to do something, then show off some actual games, like, you know what I mean, or talk about like what the developer of Tomb Raider is saying. Talk about that.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't think a lot of games will do that because at least a lot of older games. And I honestly, I was kind of surprised to see Rise of Tomb Raider on stage. So maybe Sony's giving them some sort of money or kickback for making a mode like that to like showcase it or something like that. Because I can't imagine like all games having like this like thing where you can choose the mode to play in. You know?
Holy crap! Do you guys see that picture of Andrew House holding that thing?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he's having trouble.
Yep.
Looks like he's having trouble with that thing, man. Like it's a 200-pound weight. Yeah, like
It's a giant showcase.
Yeah, that
But
thing.
yeah, what's funny is if like the Xbox comes out any bigger, we're the ones that are gonna get hit. We're the ones that are gonna get yelled at because, oh my god, it's so huge. But yet they can bring out what's supposed to be a slim of a slim, and it's bigger.
Yeah. Exactly. So they're the only people I know that can downgrade their Slim and get praised for it, and then come out with something called Pro, and it's not exactly Pro. Like there's nothing exactly pro about that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just I think it's hilarious, but it's almost 6 o'clock, and I've got another podcast, Xbox Nation, at 8. So
Nice.
I just wanted to do kind of a reaction video, and we hit almost 1,000. So I just want to go around and, everybody that joined in, just, go ahead and do your little shout out. We'll start out with you, GKB, since you were here last.
Man. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's GKB. Sorry I joined late. I had to work and stuff, so I jumped in as soon as I could. Check us out tonight on Xbox Nation. It's going to be fun.
Heck yeah. And then we have Xbot. Thank you for joining us.
No doubt, man. Thank you for adding me on here. Yeah, I keep everything simple. My YouTube channel, Twitter, Xbox Live. It's all Xbot448. But Crap, what are you going to talk about on the Nation tonight, man?
It's getting renamed PlayStation Nation for the night. And I think people want to see just what Mooch has to say about it. You know what I mean?
I know I'm tuning in.
Like I'm interested to hear what Mooch has to say about it. So
the president's point of view.
Exactly. We're gonna hear him, and you can just picture him like using his thumb like Bill Clinton used to do, like with
yeah,
like that. That's what I picture anyway. So Foxfire, thank you for joining us too. Anything you want to close with?
No problem. I just saw you on there all lonely, and I was like, oh crap, he's all by himself. And you sent me the link. I was like, sure, I'll jump in. I don't like talking about hardware, but the conference was interesting to talk about.
It was bad.
I took a nap in between, woke up, he was still talking. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't miss anything.
Yeah,
But yeah, thanks for inviting me, and you guys can follow me on Twitter and on here. It's just Lady Foxfire and stuff like that.
All right, and then we have Rand Al 4K. Thank you, because I know you're taking a break from stuff, but you hopped in, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Hope everybody enjoyed the Craig Duncan interview we did on TXR on Monday.
Yes, that was actually awesome. And you guys are giving away like copies of Rare Replay, apparently.
Yeah, he gave us some copies to give away. So there's one going on Twitter right now on the TXR account, and we'll have more to give away. But
awesome.
Yeah, so also we have a interview on Monday as well with we haven't announced it yet, but it should be pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Look out for that.
Interview after interview after interview.
Awesome. Awesome. So so that's for those asking in the chat box, Xbox Nation's at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is in like 2 hours and 12 minutes. So yeah.
Crap's got to go get his Starburst, man.
Oh my god, I was just about to say that.
Probably.
Nice.
I gotta get something. And we got She-Wolf. Thank you very much for jumping in. I know you were like cooking for your kids and stuff, so I appreciate it. Because I was gonna rock it by myself, and then some people joined. And I was like, whew, thank God.
Well, I saw that you had nobody, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do this really quickly, get this done, and then I'm going to jump in. And then, so I clicked on the link, and then I saw Fox and Ran was in here, and Tim, and I'm like, oh, okay, he had people, but I'm still going to jump in and say hi because it was hilarious. And of course,
like,
everyone got to enjoy my nice mic mic.
Hey, you know what?
Mishaps or whatever the heck you want to try to say. Trying to explain to GKB what was going on. Well, he was asking about Xbox Nation, so I was trying to explain what was going on, and so yeah.
Well, you know what? It was just a spur of the moment. I was just like, hey, you know, I wanted to talk. People were like, what are your initial thoughts? And I was like, okay, well, while it's fresh in my memory, I want to give my thoughts, and then everybody will probably still tune in tonight to hear what everybody has to say, and we can go a little bit more in depth and stuff. So yeah, but it was interesting. I was definitely let down because I was actually kind of excited to hear what Sony was going to do and how they're going to pitch that stuff to me. But after that, I'm just like, there's no way I'm buying that thing. You know what I mean? There's no reason to. You know what I mean? So yeah. So
I don't know who they're aiming for that.
I have no idea, but I did like his HDR school. Thanks, Mark Cerny. And we'll catch you tonight in about 2 hours. Wrap them up. Thanks for watching, guys.
Nice.